Welcome guys, gals and non-binary pals to this week's episode of Buffy Boys, your weekly review of Buffy the Vampire Slayer from a queer, literary and feminist perspective. My name is Joel and with me as always is my fraptious co-host.
Fraptious? What's that mean?
This can't be the thing you do where like it derails the momentum if you ask me in the middle of the intro every time. What does it mean?
Well, stop using words I don't know what they mean.
Okay, my very nice co-host Brian. Hello Brian, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So this week
what does fraptious mean? You have to answer the question.
It's from Jabberwocky.
Oh, okay. I'm not. I don't know that.
See, you're showing your weakness on your surrealism side.
Nonsense. I think it's nonsense.
Yeah, true. So this week we're talking about a very exciting episode, which is season 3, episode 22, Graduation Day, part 2, the season finale of season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Woo woo
woo. You want a Buffy summary?
Yeah, we're going to go straight into the battle.
Yeah, we're not doing any fun chatter this week, though we did see the lighthouse and it was good, really good.
We'll talk about the lighthouse next time, but we're here to fight the text, fight each other, argue about things. Let's go.
Okay. So yeah, Graduation Day Part 2. This was written and directed by Joss Whedon, naturally, and I'll talk about the air date in a second. So Buffy makes Angel drink from her. In hospital comatose, Faith tells her in a dream that the demon mayor will be physically vulnerable and still have human emotions. Oz and Willow make love knowing they may die. That didn't happen in this episode. Okay. At graduation, the mayor turns, eating Snyder. The class fight back. Buffy taunts him with Fate's knife, and he chases her into the library, which Jaws blows up. Harmony is vamped. Angel leaves Sunnydale. That was hilarious.
No mention of Larry.
No mention of Larry. The Harmony getting vamped, like, unclear.
Yeah.
You know, that's not... that we only find that out in season 4.
Do they have sex in the van? Is that why they're late?
Oh, do they?
Maybe.
Okay.
That's a smattering, a cross-section of some things that happen in this episode, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we have the end of season 3. We have the end of the high school years. We have
a huge storm.
We're in the middle
outside.
of this. Yeah, we're recording on a very very dramatic day here in Ireland.
Yeah, so true.
The middle of a fairly...
winds of change.
Yeah, the winds of change. A fairly provocative storm outside, and also in the middle of one of the biggest general election upsets in recent Irish history.
Mm-hmm.
So you can
take what you will from that. So this episode was first aired on July 13th, 1999. That is nearly 2 months after the last episode was aired.
Mm-hmm.
So as we discussed with Earshot, this episode came very soon in the wake of the Columbine massacre. So the episode was pulled out of concerns that school children would want to take up arms, as they do in this episode, and, I don't know, kill big snakes. I found this it's a bit of a difficult one because obviously, like, there's a bit there where it's just like the executives at Warner Brothers not wanting to get in trouble or be responsible for this, and there was a huge culture around the Columbine massacre about blaming media, video games, books, Marilyn Manson, all that stuff on as to why the massacre occurred, rather than actually looking at the circumstances which these children were growing up in. Additionally, I mean, like, so when they actually did air it during the summer, it was while school wasn't in session, and they felt they were comfortable doing it at that point because it wouldn't too soon, or it wouldn't be too likely to trigger people, essentially. Not trigger a similar situation. So a couple of points there. One is that apparently Seth Green said that he felt it would be, let me see, I have the phrase here. He said it would be callous and inappropriate to show the episode after the Columbine massacre. So that's interesting. Whereas Sarah Michelle Gellar actively campaigned to have it released. The episode actually was aired in Canada, which is interesting, and people bootlegged it far and wide, and Joss Whedon specifically said bootleg the puppy. So he had absolutely no problem with people doing that. And it aired, and it was absolutely no problem whatsoever when it did air. It's an interesting one.
I think it's an interesting one because I think, 21 years ago, the culture around it was just a little different in terms of both the experiential landscape and also in terms of media we've had since, etc. So I'm not surprised, I'll put it that way. I think Earshot is a little more sensitive.
I think so too.
Given that it's a very grounded episode in terms of the issues, whereas this is, Yes.
There's nothing magical happening when Jonathan is standing there with a gun.
Yeah, exactly. But, at the end of the day, I don't think at times sensitivity is, hurts.
Yeah.
But, I don't think this episode is particularly provocative
No,
in
I don't
that
think so either.
respect.
No, I don't think people are watching Buffy and getting the idea from that to go off and kill people. Buffy's a pretty empathic TV show.
Yeah. There's also something a little pessimistic about thinking that people will watch Buffy and that what they'll take away from it isn't about being a good person, trying your hardest, being empathic and
empowering the people around
empowering
you.
people. It's let's use a bow and arrow
to kill the teachers.
to kill teachers. Yeah. So there's a kind of a negative confirmation bias there, I think, a little bit anyway.
For sure.
But what we have, so in this episode is we're closing out the arc on the mayor, obviously on Faith and Buffy, on kind of rounding out kind of Cordelia's relationship with Wesley, Angel leaving to go to Los Angeles, all of that. So it's a real culmination, and as we said, could easily have been a point if the series were to be cancelled at this point. I think it would be it's a solid arc. It'd
be the best cult TV show of all time, I'd say. If it had, it is the best cult TV show of all time, I would say. But if it had ended at this point, it would have had a real status. So it was the best 3 seasons.
Apparently, there was a lot of Joss Whedon spoke that there was concern about how to evolve the show after this, which I completely appreciate because it's a daunting concept.
And they do run into difficulty in season 4. Season 4 is less than smooth.
Sure. But their initial consideration was whether to do it like Saved by the Bell and was have them always in high school. There's a conversation around it, and whether that would be a better show to try and maintain the high school setting. And when they decided not to do that, I think he said that he was concerned that they only had 2.5 years with high school, and then they had to leave that kind of very strong setting. So if they were going to do it in the most evocative way possible, and that kind of started obviously a pattern for him.
Yeah, well, I mean, look how well Saved by the Bell the college years went, so they obviously modelled it well.
So there's Saved by the Bell the college years,
which I watched all of, was great,
and there's also Saved by the Bell new class where they stay in Bayside and new students come in. So
Mr. Bellamy, Belding is there as well. There's also a movie which is Saved by the Bell Wedding in Vegas, I think it's called.
Oh yeah, there's 3 or 4 movies.
Really?
Yeah, there's Wedding in Vegas. There's one where they go to Malibu or something as well.
No, that's a season.
No, trust me. I listened to an entirely different rewatch podcast about Saved by the Bell. I know that there's multiple television movies.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
But the most well known one was definitely the one where Zach and Kelly
get married in Vegas.
Yeah. I will say that podcast was very good. But what it did tell me from listening through it is that Saved by the Bell is a trash TV show and not really worth revisiting.
Yeah, I mean, that the worst thing it ever did was basically at one point Zach and Lisa kiss in an episode, and Lisa's a black woman and Zach's a white man, and they got so much blowback from the network over it, they completely eradicated it afterwards. They never spoke about it again. They never even touched on the subject again.
Yeah, it's not good. It's
not good. It was the 90s.
It's not redeemable programming anyways.
No.
But this is Buffy Stands Up. So I was excited about this episode. I think this was the episode one of the episodes I had really crystallized in my mind. We started in the podcast, and it really does stand up. I really felt very a sense of adventure, a sense of culmination in terms of the kind of the plot, which is, while definitely large stakes compared to what Buffy has done to date, I'm still really impressed by how it's actually quite contained. Yeah. It's not that New York is being attacked by a saucer. Do you know what I mean? It's literally the high school is the be all and end all of what happens in terms of the.
It's also nicely not escalated. It hasn't escalated from season 2. Season 2 is much larger stakes. It's literally the end of the world. This could be the end of the world, but it seems to be more pure demon on Earth. That's really bad.
There's always a vague implication that eventually they may get around to killing everyone, but it's a much more immediate threat. Yeah,
I mean, we saw that Worm. It'd take a while to get around to killing everything, Or then again, it might be that it had to feed and then would grow bigger and would consume everything.
See, that uncertainty is scary.
Yeah, for sure. But season 2, it was a certain apocalypse.
Death, yeah, absolutely.
And season 2 had that. It felt headier and felt like higher stakes, higher emotional stakes. Maybe is what I mean. But it's nice that they kind of didn't feel the need to escalate even further. Well, except for the fact that they blew up the fucking school. But anyway, so so basically in the last episode, or where we were left off, was Faith had a poisoned Angel. Buffy had to bring Faith to Angel so Angel could feed on Faith. Buffy couldn't do that because she stabbed Faith, presumably getting rid of a lot of her blood, which was a bad move regardless, and Faith falling out onto a truck.
And thought she killed her.
Yeah. And then so Buffy goes and gives herself to Angel instead, which is fucking dark.
Yeah, so what do you think of... I think that's very interesting in terms of the... we look at Buffy and Angel's whole arc and the way she's been at various times quite vulnerable to him in both a positive and a negative sense, and this interplay of what the vampire means and thematically in the show, and the sense of the kind of the exchange of life force, vitality and passion, but a lack of critical thinking and all that.
Yeah, that scene has been extensively read as being a sexual interaction between the two of them, an exchange of power and stuff.
Yeah.
So clearly. So, I mean, there's lots of gripping of each other's thighs.
Yeah.
Buffy even, like, she grabs on hold of a metal pot and crushes it in her hand very orgasmically, I would say. And even though it's shot and the soundtrack and everything, it's very much like, it very much cements the idea that the consumption that the vampires do undergo is sexual, and potentially this is the kind of like a weirdly consensual one, whereas it's usually quite like non-consensual. Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting in terms of kind of the agency and the implications in terms of her taking control by, the vampire being such a dominant and in many ways very masculine, toxic force in the show's mythology, and her consensually and voluntarily giving of herself to restore Angel. That's completely reframing the power dynamic and giving her the power even in sacrifice, which is something that kind of recurringly becomes a theme for her. But it's not it's always about her having the choice to do it, and that's where her power comes from. And so he's delirious, he's entirely dependent on her. She's in control in that situation, even though she's putting herself at risk. And I think that's really core to what on the surface, what differentiates shows or films which on the surface might seem similar to Buffy, is the way and the reason she does things is really crucial.
Yeah, you're right. It's a heroic moment in the end, which is unusual just given the circumstances. It also obviously fulfills what the first evil told Angel would happen in Amends, which was episode 7 or something of the season, where they said you'll drink from Buffy or something, and he's like, no way.
That could never get there.
Yeah. It also obviously very explicitly calls back to the prom, his dream sequence in which he sees Buffy being devoured by the sun, i.e. having been turned into a vampire to some degree, but also it's a representation of his the threat that he exemplifies in her life. And yeah, this episode, one of the really weird things about this episode, and just the end of the Buffy and Angel relationship, is just how much the context of it is just kind of blurred. There's no ever one sentence or conversation where they're like, oh, we have to break up because X, or we can't keep doing this because Y. Instead, what you have is they still love each other, but Angel is a danger to Buffy, and they are too dangerous as a pair because of how diametrically opposed they are, that they cannot sustain what has happened. And yeah, it's just deeply sad, and it's a very mature moment for the show to not really make that too explicit or make that too straightforward. It's good.
Absolutely, and I think it's I think the Angel and Buffy arc has run its course in terms of its narrative potential. I'm not saying she shouldn't be happy and shouldn't be with him, etc. But in terms of something useful for the show to do, I think he needs to leave.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, like, keeping your protagonist miserable is always going to be a good source of
motivation. Yeah. But I also think it's interesting because she is in no way Buffy's not a victim throughout this show, but the way male heroes tend to sacrifice themselves is in a very what's the word I'm trying to reach for here? But it's a very exterior way.
Yeah.
They wear armor, they go into battle, they die heroically. They themselves are never compromised by what they do, and they set the terms for it. Buffy does something which I think arguably is much more difficult as a protagonist and as a hero. Is like her sacrifices and things she gives often violates her interior. She she allows herself to be drained. She kills Angel while being upset. she does all these things while modeling a vulnerability that is not in itself a weakness, or not a weak spot to target. Whereas the traditional, what's really lost or gained by like a man going out to fight a dragon and getting killed, like narratively, whereas she like does something which I think is much more like terrifying.
Yeah, it's like she constantly has to compromise. I think it's important to note as well, just like the season 2 ended with Buffy saying, if you take away my friend, I've taken away your friends, your family, your your world, and what's left? And Buffy says, me, and catches the sword. And that's the thing, is Buffy was left in this deeply solipsistic, deeply could only rely on herself, and that had to be the first thing she learned, is that she could rely on herself. And this season was all about building up towards her having a community to some degree.
Yeah.
And towards her, like, in some ways, becoming a more mature version of that, where she didn't find the final stage of her philosophy and her guidance in what is in her, but in what she can empower in other people and what she can contribute. And that's exemplified in this episode by rallying the troops, as we were talking about in the last episode. She she goes from, in Anne, being so alone, so defeated, to kind of like doing this to perform this kind of weird solidarity amongst the students with this shared experience, and bring them together and being like, oh, we are acting as one, and that is how we can defeat this this evil. And it's a theme that continues through Buffy, obviously, into how she finishes season 7.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's the mature and interesting development of that point, which, so often you stop at saying people have to realize that they are strong enough to do it themselves. But then the continuation of that, which is maybe less dramatic but perhaps more relevant, is that but they shouldn't have to, and that she can definitely fall back on herself, but she is stronger with other people and they're stronger together. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that kind of culmination in terms of rallying the students to defeat the mayor, and so he ascends at the graduation.
Such a fun scene.
It's fantastic. He ascends at the graduation speech, turns like a demon all but can, and the way it should happen is that he ekes all the students, etc., etc. So what actually happens is Buffy has basically pulled together all the various connections that they've made in all the Monster of the Week episodes over the last 3 seasons, plays on the fact that the students in the prom have acknowledged the fact that this stuff is happening in Sunnydale, something that the adults can't do, refuse to do, and deciding that no, they're going to live. And as soon as he transforms, all the parents just completely scatter. And I actually think this is potentially why Joyce is sent away in terms of the story, because I think Joyce will be one element too many, and I think Joyce, it wouldn't be a good no for her to run. And I also don't think it would be appropriate for her to take part in it, because there's a very specific thing being said here about how the students are kind of reversing the power dynamic. So I think that's actually quite interesting that they chose to pair her out of it.
It's the first season finale without Joyce.
So far.
Stop.
And I think with the way Richard Wilkins behaves in this episode, as he kind of lets his genial mask slip, is really key to understanding that, like, as affable and as likable the character is to watch, he is evil, but he is evil in a way which does exist in the world. He very much represents that kind of conservative politician, the person who has all these, is representing family values and the good old conservative patriarchy that, like, has treated us all so well over the years, but ultimately, does see women as whores. As he calls Buffy to Angel, Buffy as a whore in this episode, which is, oh god, is such a unpleasant word. My skin crawls hearing men refer to women as whores. But it's a great note for the character, because it is really important to crystallize that, like, he is, like, this show has never been heavy-handed in some ways in its feminist allegories, but many of the villains represent real and present dangers that men pose in the world.
I was trying to figure out what Alvacan might mean.
Okay.
And I was like, I can't think of any etymological stuff that it might mean. And I was like, maybe it's an anagram. And what I could come up with as an anagram for it was I can love.
You've cracked it.
Or Oil Can 5.
Oil Can 5.
5 being V.
You cracked the code. It's been
Thanks.
21 years.
Yeah.
But no, he represents this real threat in the world, a real misogyny, a real rage, and
it's easy to be like genial and pleasant when everything's going your way, when the whole world was designed for you, you know. And of course, when someone tries to interrupt that, take it away from you, you're going to be outraged. Like, the mayor represents like systematic oppression. You know, he hasn't just inherited this power from his father, which is kind of what's suggested on the external viewpoint in Sunnydale.
Yeah.
He has literally just existed in this position for 100 years because he will not relinquish the power, and he considers himself to be so important that he will, like, he's like, well, the next step is for me to eat this.
Like, he is a fully embodied representation of the patriarchy. He is his own father, and he has given it to himself the whole way along the line. And he also mentions in this episode that this graduation day happens on the 100th anniversary of Sunnydale being founded, and basically everything about the town he founded was leading to this ascension. So there's a tremendous sense of entitlement and ownership. But what I'm getting at is the crucial thing that they do is the reason why they're successful is because it's all based around the assumption that people will act in a certain way, self-preserve in a certain way, vote in a certain way, etc. And then what's interesting is that what's so powerful is that the students, because they don't play into that narrative, the whole thing falls apart. They are able together, without making too much of an allegory for it, but young people are in kind of youth movement, young voters, whatever it might be. But there's this power block that's assumed. And it could be women, and it could be gay voters, it could be minority voters, whatever, or people, activists. But there's an assumption that they will stay quiet to a certain degree and follow the lines that are kind of built into the narrative. So you have this scene where they take control of the graduation, the parents run, and they stay, and they're scared, but they're determined. And you have this great scene where the vampires, which the show says, like, it's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the vampires are there to kill you. They are the threat in the night. It's what it's so powerful. And they rush and they say, get the kids, and they run up the stairs to grab them. And then you see the vampires running the other way as the kids are chasing after them with flaming, like, spears. It's fundamentally the reason why Buffy wins this is because she's willing to destroy the school, destroy everything, destroy the mayor, because their will to live and succeed is more than those institutions. I think that's actually really core to what the show is trying to portray.
I think so too. It's a great moment. It's the mobilizing of people and empowering. Oh, that's so good. I don't like the patriarchy. I think it's good that Buffy has eaten it.
We should have maybe said that at the start of the podcast. We're not big fans of the patriarchy, and we apologize for our contribution to it.
I apologize for nothing. Anyway, so the whole theme of the whole season is so clearly just establishment and acceptance or rejection thereof. Mark Fields, obviously, as I spoke about last week, highlights this as being the case in Gingerbread, where Joyce, actually, you were talking there about, we won't be silent anymore kind of idea.
Yeah.
Joyce says, oh, this is supposed to be a moment of silence, but that's this town's disease, is silence. And we're not going to be silent anymore. And they then go ahead and focus on the youth element rather than actually...
And try to burn them. So.
Try to burn their daughters.
Yeah, good start, poor execution.
Yeah. And this is like, a genuine overthrowing of that. It's seeing things for what they are, seeing what they can change, and putting power in the hands of the many. It's great. And of course, faith existing within that, accepting what the mayor is offering, seeing his being able to offer a secure and comfortable position to her, comfort exemplified for the first time in her life by an apartment rather than a disgusting motel, or I think she refers to a trailer, maybe. Am I just reading into that? I think she refers to having lived in a trailer at some point.
I think she may have, but I think it's fair to say it's fully implied.
Yeah. She comes from extreme poverty anyway, and alcoholic mother, and he offers her both a father figure and comfort and a role where she didn't have one previously, and that role is to follow some really awful orders, but the comfort of that, in a very Nuremberg-y kind of way, is that she she'll do anything. When she kills your man in graduation day at part 1, he says, "Why are you doing this?" And she says, "I didn't think to ask."
Yeah, well, she has an unassailable place in a power structure where she's never had one before. So she's someone who grew up in extreme poverty and being told from so many sources that she's
the most disenfranchised character of the season.
Yeah, that she had no purpose, and then she's called, and she's like, this is what I was waiting for. That I'm the Slayer. I always hoped I was something, and now I am, and it's going to be okay. And then she comes to Sunnydale and she realizes there's another girl who's more perfect than her, and less tainted.
Yep.
And she's actually the one. Like, as much as it's tragic and some of the things she does are terrible, it's kind of really understandable. Like, she is someone who's been pushed right to the edge in terms of her self-worth.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, I think what they really try to hammer home in this episode, and what becomes the mayor's vulnerability, is he does genuinely care about her.
Yeah.
And that's an important note as well, because Hitler loved dogs. But like, this
is vegetarian.
It is an important thing to like. I think that people can tend to see one note of decency or an example and try to extrapolate it into something essentialist. And it is important to show that these characters are not
one note
and identifiable black hats. Do you know what I mean? Like, the mayor does have decent elements to him.
Yeah. It's
just far outweighed by his like actually eldritch evil.
Yeah, I do want to talk about it, like, Faith, further in a second when we get to the dream, because my god, what a scene. But you're right, Faith represents a huge vulnerability for him. Actually, just occurred to me there is this episode. I got a real flash when I was watching it of the Wish. So when you see Larry mobilizing and bringing things in and out of a van, I was like, I wonder if that's a explicit reference to the Wish, where Larry is obviously one of the White Hats, bringing Cordelia into Cordelia's body. No, they just grab Cordelia and put her into
Cordelia off the street, to save her.
Yeah, in this episode, obviously, you can draw great parallels there between the children in The Wish have to mobilize after it's too late.
Yeah.
They're a ragtag group who managed to pull something together and are ultimately defeated because Buffy never came to town and never was able to share that kind of empowerment amongst the people. But in this episode, it's the direct correlation or the direct opposite. What am I trying to say here? There's a direct correlation between that and Buffy being here and able to mobilize people at the right time. This town, it's better off for Buffy having been here.
Yeah. It's the answer to the question the Wish poses.
Exactly. And that Buffy poses as well in Gingerbread. Because she saves a whole generation of children. And, that's huge.
Yeah. And she specifically she's such a tremendous strategist, which we've talked about before. But she gives everyone a role which is appropriate to what they can do, and I love her casting Angel as a scrappy fighter, which will obviously be ongoing that's Angel's role in his TV show. Is he's always going to be the fist fighter? Yeah, because he's weirdly like he does tend to punch things out a lot on Angel, or like approach things with force, and relies on other people to have the plans a lot of the time. There's only one or two examples in Angel of him genuinely outthinking someone, and that in itself is meant to be like the surprising reversal.
By the way, but Joel, we can watch the first episode of Angel tonight if you want.
Ooh, that'd be fun. City of. I do enjoy Angel quite a bit. But like including, drawing on all of our resources, telling Xander and Angel to stop bickering. People listen to her. People respect Buffy.
Yep.
And specifically engaging Xander in the way that he needs to do his job properly, by telling him that he's a very important part of the plan. And in such a subtle way, kind of tying together his arc and kind of feeling like he was the Zeppo for so many seasons.
Yeah, no, it is. We'll talk about this later, but like, Xander isn't my least favorite character in the season.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, which is surprising because it's going to be the first time.
Yeah, I didn't think going into this that this would be something I would come to. I actually think the Zeppo is a turning point for his character.
I think it's a turning point for his character. I think it's a turning point for his character, not the turning point. But go on.
I think.
Oh, did you? Yeah. Oh shit. Go on.
So I think the Zeppo is a turning point for his character, and I do think that after that he has more context, and I do think he softens, because given in this episode that given how fucking horrible he's been to Angel before, often undeservedly, given that Angel actually did drain Buffy in this episode, he's not as harsh as he could have been.
Yeah, he is. He's harsh though.
Well, he is always going to be a bit harsh. So yeah, I do think this redemptive note that they give Wesley is obviously very intentional. I think, did you tell me before, did you mention that he was due to die in the finale?
Oh, I don't know about anything about that. I've never heard that before.
Maybe not, but he's the prime kind of character you could find out was meant to die and then was saved.
And I'm not sure if he was intended to go on to Angel at this point, especially given the interaction between him and Cordelia in this episode, which was chef's kiss. It was beautiful. So what happens is they go and they have their moment finally, because they've been teasing having a moment for literally, I don't know, 8 or 9 episodes now, and they kiss in the library when everything's going down. And it is
painful to watch.
The most painful to watch kiss I've ever seen in my life. And they're like, okay, and they try again, and it's again awful. And they're both like, okay, well, have fun in London. And I was like, yeah, I'll drop you a line maybe at some point. Okay, great, bye.
Cordelia says that would be neat.
Yeah, and it's just so uncomfortable. So I don't think it's suggested there in any way that they were trying to bring him into Angel.
Noticeably absent from that scene is this triumphant romantic music they usually play when people are actually kissing properly. No, so I don't think he's meant to have a core role in Angel, but at this point, but I think they wanted him to be open to return as a character who could have development, which Alexis Downsop does brilliantly on Angel, in my opinion. So I do note when they thread these things through, as opposed to Snyder, who at no point has ever had any redemptive feature or texture. No, it's great. You have to have
goodbye, Armin Sherman.
Like this,
we loved thee.
Yeah, Armin Sherman plays it great, but like this show is pitched at teenagers. Yeah. And your high school principal as a teenager doesn't have any redemptive features.
Absolutely not.
Or be it your vice principal or whatever. But there is like this show, for all its great longevity, it is fundamentally about that they survive high school, and at the end the principal's eaten and he's kind of a dick. There's a certain element that's just enjoyable about that.
Yeah, you're right.
I will note for the canon that there is the implication in this episode that while Angel was delirious, he did try to kiss Oz.
Yeah, I liked that. I liked that a lot. So what happens is that Willow goes in and tries to tend to Angel, and she says, I'm here to help you. And he's like, Buffy, I love you. I'm not going to leave you. I love you forever.
And they're stroking her.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, it's Willow. And he's like, oh, sorry. And then Willow goes out and talks to Oz and says, he thought I was Buffy, and Oz says, you too, huh? So yeah, he definitely tried to kiss Oz.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I would try to kiss Oz too. Okay. So I think we only have a couple more major points to hit about this episode. One is that dream.
The dream sequence.
It's one of my favorite in the whole show, and it's one of the most famous. It's one of the most talked about of the show because obviously it's incredibly prescient. So if you haven't seen it recently, what happens in the dream is that Buffy and Faith share a coma dream. Essentially, they're both knocked out due to blood loss, next to each other in a hospital, just a couple of rooms over, and they're in a dream together essentially. And at one point, Buffy says, "Is this your mind or mine?" And Faith says, "Who might? I have no idea." Yeah. It's important to note this dream has a lot of
foreshadowing.
No, yes, it absolutely does. No, but it actually has a lot of similarities to dreams that Faith has in her coma in This Year's Girl, which is the season 4 episode where she comes back. Sure. Whereby she, she's in Buffy's room at that point and all this stuff. So I mean, there's no ambiguity there. They are sharing a dream here.
Yeah, it's the Slayer dreamscape.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in this dream, what happens is that there's a famous line which is Faith says, many miles to go, Little Miss Tuffet. Let's see, it's Little Miss Tuffet counting down. Little Miss Moffat counting down to 730. Many miles to go, or it might be the other way around. But many miles to go, obviously being reference to the poem we were talking about last week or the week before. I think it was in the prom, but which is the Robert Frost poem, and it's about death to some degree. But so what people at the time when they said 730, they had absolutely no idea what it meant. A lot of people suggested that it was 2 years because it's 365 multiplied by 2. Well, and then Little Miss Muffet, people consider that at the time, and I'm saying this according to I read a great essay about just dreams in Buffy, and just Freudian readings of them by Donald Keller in a essay called Spirit Guides and Shadow Selves, who talks about Faith's dreams specifically a lot. But apparently people at the time thought that the Little Miss Muffet was a reference to the mayor's box of spiders, because obviously in the Little Miss Muffet a spider stands beside her, etc. But in fact what it is referencing is 730 is the amount of time until Buffy dies. That is what happens in Chosen.
No, The Gift.
Sorry, Chosen is season 7. Yeah. In The Gift, when Buffy sacrifices herself for Dawn, and Little Miss Muffet is referenced to Dawn specifically. So at one point when Dawn is getting clawed at by a mad person in season 5, because they recognize her as being the gift, sorry, the key. They say curds and whey. So that's obviously and I think Gloria also refers to her as Little Miss Muffet. So that's cool. It's a really cool little prescient thing.
I think it really does frame that, like, the core arc of Buffy is the first 5 seasons.
Yeah, you're so right.
In many ways, that, like, what Faith is saying here is that her ultimate, like, timeline ends with the gift. Yeah,
agreed. Yeah. Additionally, I think there in Restless there's Tara references, and Tara is often the voice of kind of like presaging the future.
Yeah, the Greek chorus.
Exactly. Yeah. They also refer to dawn coming. It's, I think, 58 days before the dawn or something like that is what she says. She literally says before the dawn.
I think she literally says something like, dawn's coming, or little sis is on her way, or something along those lines, yeah.
So that's all really cool.
It's probably sacrilegious. We don't know that word for word, but anyway.
I know.
We know it in our hearts.
That's it. But this essay by Donald Keller is actually great. I would recommend reading it. And he does a bunch of reading specifically of this dream. So to start with, he suggests that the apartment that they're in is specifically, in a Freudian sense, a reference to it being Faith's body.
Mm-hmm.
So Faith's body is like, as you see in the apartment, everything's packed up, it's ready to go, and it's kind of on the threshold of death. Faith is also staring out of a broken window, which is the broken window that Buffy and her smashed through, that the mayor has referenced previous in the episode, saying that Faith would have taken this outside, etc. So that's already been highlighted. And
Faith says when she's looking at that window, they're never going to fix that, are they? So like, this is a fundamental break in the relationship.
It's a fundamental break in the relationship. It's also a fundamental break in Faith. And Buffy kind of has to look at just the damage she's done. So she is responsible for doing this to Faith. She, at various points, she looks down at her hand and she sees the knife flashing in and out, which is a very Macbeth image. Is this a knife? I see it before me, and kind of trying to rub the blood out of your hands, as Lady Macbeth does. And though at the same time, Rhonda Wilcox in Why Buffy Matters suggests that the window that Faith is looking out of represents her her threshold existence, that she's on the verge of death, and that's a transitional space, which, thresholds in literature are fascinating. But it's also just like a beautifully shot scene, and it's beautifully scored. It's really soft lighting, and it's really beautiful music. And Faith is really in shadows. Her face is really dark throughout the episode. So that's really fascinating. Because Buffy is always shown in this like pure light, and Faith is that shadow, to Buffy. They also talk about, there's a cat in the episode, and I'll ask you, because I found an interesting tidbit about the cat, and I just kind of read the cat as being specifically just a representative of both Faith and Buffy, of the Slayer lineage to some degree.
Yeah.
I think that happens again in Restless to some degree. But with this cat, Buffy asks who will take care of him when there's not often. Faith said she's a she. And these things just take care of themselves. And then Buffy says, you mean the higher powers? So obviously, if we're going to unpack that, one is that, like, who's going to take care of the Slayer now that there's no Watchers Council, there's no structure, there's nothing taken care of anymore. And additionally, the kind of the suggestion of a higher power, it's Buffy overthrowing all these concepts as well as just the structures. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So
that
was a lot of words for me. Sorry.
No, that's what you're here for, to talk a lot about things that are interesting. So Buffy says, obviously about this cat, and Faith didn't have a cat, so it's a weird inclusion. So it's very intentional. So with this cat, and obviously, as I said, Buffy asks, who's going to take care of her, and is it going to be a higher power? And Faith says, no, I don't think I meant that at all, or something to that effect. So they're very much like, Faith does two interesting things in this stream. She tells Buffy how to kill the mayor. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, she does. She tells him to use his human vulnerability. So there is a sense of her, not necessarily redemption, but a sense of clarity.
Yep.
And I think the implication here is that, thematically or literally, that this cat and the cat in Restless represents the Slayer shared lineage, which eventually comes kind of to be fully represented by the first Slayer at the end of Restless. And I think that the great tragedy of the show, the core tragedy, is two Slayers fighting each other.
Yeah.
It's between Kendra's death and Faith's fall. It's utterly heartbreaking in terms of what the core of the show should be and what the Slayers can do. Mm-hmm. So I think part of it, and in terms of you have all these boxes in her apartment, and she's saying basically she can't take them with her.
This is all yours now, is what she says, isn't it?
This is all yours now. And Buffy's like, I can't use all this, and she basically says, take what you need and leave the rest. And it's very much that the Slayer responsibility, which has been split between the two of them, which has caused friction, is back in Buffy's court entirely, and it's kind of giving her tacit kind of approval of kind of go and do what we were here to do.
There's the additional part of it, just that Buffy should take what lessons she can from Faith as a person, from her shadow self. That's what one does when integrating the shadow self, is to identify things about it that help you and try to not engage with the rest or try to assimilate the rest,
Yeah. And I think it's laying the groundwork between the destruction of the structures of the high school and the mayor, of seceding from the Watchers Council. What Faith gives Buffy here is actually the key to ending the show, which is that they need the Slayer more than the Slayer needs them. The men, the world, and Slayers don't need anyone else. They don't need to rely on it. They can do it. They can share the power amongst themselves, and that's as much as I sometimes talk about how the comics are interesting. Like, once the Slayer power is shared at the end of Chosen, fundamentally the show is over. That is the culmination of it. So I think Faith basically gives her the ammo for everything she does for the next 4 years here. It's incredibly powerful, and I think it's necessary as the culmination of really what is a tremendous tragedy. Slayers fighting each other is just a horrifying concept.
Absolutely. And I think I would suggest that the number one relationship in this season, and the most important thing to look at, is the relationship between Buffy and Faith.
Yeah.
Faith represents Buffy, a broken person who didn't get as many opportunities and is clawing on to whatever opportunities they can get. And who Buffy has to learn to love and accept. And that very much explicitly happens in this episode, where Buffy has put her in a coma and doesn't express a huge amount of regret about that. Because to some degree it was the right thing to do. Not to actually specifically put her in a coma, but to try to save Angel instead of Faith, because Angel is a person who does good and Faith isn't, unfortunately. And Buffy, knowing this, wakes up from her coma, and the first thing she does, she finds Faith and she kisses her on the forehead. And it's a really beautiful, tender moment of female friendship, of women having difficulties with each other, and of irreconcilable differences between these two characters who are supposed to be so linked. It's a really deep. I think it's a much more complex relationship than that between Buffy and Angel. Mm-hmm. But I think it's so much tension. It has so much prescience, and it's so one-sided in some ways. Faith cares so much more about Buffy than Buffy cares about Faith.
Yeah, and
it's so upsetting.
Absolutely. It closes the conversation from the start of their fight, where Faith opens the fight by saying, "Give us a kiss." Mm-hmm. And kind of brings it all back together.
Good point, Joel.
Thank you. And then when Faith does reappear on Angel, it's kind of an extension of that, where initially she's kind of maybe semi-sincerely but semi-not sincerely earlier in this season asking Angel for help with her bad thoughts, and then when it comes to her being on Angel, she genuinely is actually in need of help, and she's trying to suicide by vampire, basically. She's trying to get him to kill her, and he won't. So there's actually some sincerity that evolves out of it.
Okay, so I think that's all our major points.
What happened to Faith's PlayStation?
What happened to Flate's PlayStation?
Is that in the box she gave Buffy?
It's possibly in the box she gave Buffy. More importantly, what happened to Catherine?
Oh, Amy's mother?
Yeah. She dead?
Yeah, one eye is on either side of something down right now, I think. I also think, let's be realistic here, mechanically, the important part about putting Faith into a coma is that like no more Slayers are going to be called, because in some ways like that opens opens kind of a box of problems narratively, if just every time you kill one off, another one's like, well, I'm here for the next arc. You know,
yeah,
so we finished with the new Slayers. That was interesting. It's done now.
Yeah, though I mean, like in some ways I'm kind of like, imagine if they had realized how brilliant Eliza Dushku was really and kept her in the show on a continuous basis. I would trade Eliza Dushku in this show on an ongoing basis for Spike any day of the week.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a quick dusting for Graduation Day Part 2, and then we'll go into our season wrap up. How's that sound, Joel?
Sure, sounds great.
Great. Okay, I have a couple of Buffy bits for you if you don't mind me throwing them at you.
Hit me.
So, this episode has a very similar structure to Chosen, whereby Buffy and her friends come up with a plan, but don't reveal it to the audience, and you only find it out as it's unfolding, and it's very much also like rallying the troops. Great stuff. This is the first time that Cordelia dusts a vampire, and it's the first time that Wesley and Angel fight together, which is nice. This is the second time that Buffy's been bitten. The first time was obviously in Prophecy Girl by the Master. And this is obviously the final appearance of both Cordelia and Wesley on Buffy, though Angel will obviously reoccur, I think, in every season except season 6.
Yeah, like a bad penny.
You might have read this. The explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so apparently the explosion that occurs in this episode, they did explode the set.
Yeah.
They blew it up. So the explosion occurred at 5 a.m. in Torrance, which is where it was shot in California. And for the surrounding area, it set off many alarms, broke many windows, and they were not allowed back to this place to film ever again.
Fair.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. Obviously, this is the second time that a principal has been eaten alive. When Snyder arrived, he was like, "Yeah, Flutie, he was too nice. Look what happened to him. He got eaten." So perfect. He's also the 9th faculty member to die.
Where did they go to school in Sunnydale after this?
Yeah, so Dawn goes to school in an additional, I think it's like a new building, or maybe merged with another high school or something like that. And it obviously only gets reopened in season 7.
Yeah.
And the last little bit I have is this is the last main character appearance, or the first last main character appearance. So Cordelia was a main character in the show. This is her last appearance in the show. The next one is going to be Oz, who,
first time main character has left the show.
Well, no, you see, it's not the first time a main character has left the show, because, you're right, it is. And obviously it's Angel and Cordelia leaving, but Angel will be back. So Cordelia never comes back, so this is the first time a main character leaves for good.
Yeah, gotcha.
And that's all my Buffy bits, I think. Yeah. Oh, actually, and remind me at the end of before we go into, actually no, I'll talk about it now. So what we're going to have to look out for next week, Joel, is that we've been lied to our whole lives.
Okay.
So the whole of Buffy as a show was shot 4:4:3. So 4:3 being the aspect ratio, traditional square TV format. However, seasons 4 to 7 were shot with widescreen in mind. So it wasn't the intended presentation, but there won't be any extras out there, and they'll have been viewing it through camera lens specifically to have it acceptable in those framing. But Joss Whedon didn't want them released ever in 4:3. However, in regions 2 and 4, in 16:9, which in regions 4, regions 2 and 4 DVD, which region 2 is Ireland, UK, and Europe, they were released in 16:9. So every time I've ever watched Buffy has been not the intended visual format, which hurts me. But and specifically every time, because when the BBC first aired it, they also aired it in 16:9 because they managed to get a hold of it somehow.
So what I'm going to do is just get some black cardboard cutout stick and stick a side of the TV.
That is exactly what I was going to suggest. So yeah, the framing, we've never watched Buffy the right way, basically, from seasons 4 onwards, which is very upsetting. The only episode that was intended to be shown in 16:9 is, guess it?
Hush.
No, try again.
Boggy?
No.
Dunno.
Which is the most formal episode?
Oh, Once more feeling.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I
So
think I knew that actually.
yeah, there you go. So we're gonna be watching the wrong episodes from this point forward.
I listened to the soundtrack to Once More Feeling recently, and I still know it sung through word for word, top to bottom.
Do you have any fashion notes there, Joel, for me?
Do I have any fashion notes? I love Buffy's red leather pants.
Yeah.
In this episode. I think the big fashion choice is definitely those big burgundy graduation gowns that everyone uses to
awful.
do the concealed carry.
And then Willow's wearing like the weirdest, biggest yellow like Macintosh underneath it. It's so unusual.
She's like, no, I have to get some poor fashion choice in here, even though we all have to wear the same.
She was wearing a really bad floofy pink like blouse earlier in the episode, so she already had that ticked.
And Wesley obviously wearing one of those poorly cooked suits to go and fist fight, and it just does not go. It's not go well for him.
Xander also wears a really large brown suede jacket in this episode, and it just doesn't look great, to be honest.
No, but that's it. I think that's it.
Death count. Do you want to grab it up there?
Yeah. So in terms of body count, fairly high as you might expect. One female student which was eaten by the mayor Olvacan, 3 students killed and savaged by vampires, 3 vampires burned by Oz, and 2 students using flaming arrows, which we said should be in Buffy's arsenal maybe more often than the crossbow. Poor Larry Blaisdell, killed by a tail of Olvacan, definitely dead. Snyder eaten whole. Harmony Kendall drained and sired by a vampire. Why go to the effort? One vampire dusted by Cordelia. And finally, Olvacan and Mayor Richard Wilkins killed by the explosion of Sunnydale High School library. Season 3 is also the season with the most vampire deaths.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. What's your rating out of 10?
For the episode? I would give it 10 out of 10 dead gay jocks.
Oh.
I think it's a perfect episode for me. I think it's actually almost difficult to parse critically because it's so good and there's so much going on. It just feels actual. And every single character, every single theme hits it, and it's exciting. I was excited.
Okay. I'm actually going to give it 9.7 scar tissues out of 10.
I like that.
Thank you. So I think it was immaculate, really, really good, but realistically it's not as good as Becoming Part 2.
Fair.
So I give that a 10 out of 10. This is lesser.
You've been very, very scientific with your scoring.
Let's talk. Joel, let's do our Buffy Boys season end review.
Sure. Classic annual.
So our first question is a season rating out of 10. I'm going to give it a 9.2 futures out of 10.
Futures?
Yeah.
Okay.
I gave season 2 a perfect 10 out of 10. I stick by that. I used to think that season 3 of Buffy was my favorite season.
You're really shooketh by this, aren't you?
I am shooketh. It's incredible. It just does not have the highs of season 2. It doesn't have the lows of season 2. Like there are no episodes nearly as bad as some of the episodes in season 2. You know, the monsters of the week are solid. The writing is solid. The characterization of the characters really there. It really does expand on the complexity that season 2 contributes. I just don't. It doesn't stick the landing for me as much as I remembered.
Okay.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant TV. If this was a season of any other TV show of all time, it would be probably 10 out of 10.
It's just in heady company.
It's in heady company. Yeah, I loved it. So I'm going to, 9.2 futures out of 10.
Sure.
I loved season 2. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant.
Well, we can go back and watch that again if you want.
But like the brilliant episodes of this season are the comedic episodes, which is great. Like, you know, the Zeppo, Doppelgangland, The Wish isn't really comedic, but it's brilliant. And season 2, the brilliant episodes were obviously the really heady, really thematic, really metaphorical stuff, and that's really where my jazz is, you know.
Yeah, I think the setting has matured in a way that's positive for it. I gave it 9 old ones out of 10.
Oh, great!
I was thinking specifically whole numbers for this.
I think I was too, and I went for 9.2. No, we're 9. You're right. We should be going whole numbers for the.
I think so. Yeah. So I agree with you. It doesn't have the crystallized perfection of season 2, but I don't want to beat it with that stick too much because when I look at
it's brilliant.
When I looked at the individual episodes, I think a lot of them are just really great. It definitely doesn't have the unforgivable elements that some of the season 2 stuff does. But also, for me and for where I come from this emotionally and critically, how this ends what I feel to be a really significant period in the show, and a really period that's very evocative for me as a viewer. I was going to say as a watcher. Can't use that phrase here. The way it pulls it all together, I think, is really masterful.
Yeah,
and something that I really respect and which really resonates with me. So even though it's not the peak of season 2, I think it sticks the landing so well on the high school stuff, and it's just really, really impressive to me and really meaningful to me as well.
When we watch season 4 and season 6, we might look back in the season and say, actually, no, it was 10.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Okay, favorite episode.
So, I kind of cheese this a little bit. Mm-hmm. So for my actual favorite episode,
Graduation Day Part 2.
I've said Graduation Day Part 1 and Part 2.
Okay.
Because I feel weird about particularly some two-parters.
A lot of places will lump these together.
Yeah. Some two-parters are distinct episodes, but this does feel like a special television event where it runs for 2 hours and then gets chopped up. So I would say Graduation Day as a linked unit. Yeah, I love it. I like, kind of, as I just said, I think the way it kind of ties off everyone's arcs, the emotional resolution, the maturity of it, the pageantry compared to like really the scale of the show up until now, and just the sense of absolute earned thrill when the students actually stand up for themselves. And also the stuff with Olvakan and the old ones, like this is one of the earliest examples of that being such a fascinating thing for me, which I've gone on to loving so many different properties. I think it kind of comes from the mayor. So that's why it's one of my favourite.
We didn't even talk about how penile is his whole existence.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing.
Buffy even calls him a dick, and
she does call him Dick, yeah, because his name's Richard. You got that right, okay. And then just my alternate, in case you didn't accept that, was The Wish. Because The Wish is just like a brilliant episode, and it's just really incredibly memorable.
Yeah,
so and it's science fictional.
It is science fictional. You're right. So my runners up were Band Candy, incredible episode, so fucking funny. Zeppo, so well written, so like immaculate structurally, even if it's about Xander. Lover's Walk, which we loved at the time, and I still love. And it was so pressing.
That's the Ghosts one, isn't it?
Ghosts?
Is that the one about the ghosts in the high school?
No. That was season 2, Joel.
Okay.
I Only Have Eyes for You.
That makes more sense. Which one was Lover's Walk?
Lover's Walk was Spike comes back and tries to make Willow Drusilla back in love with him again.
Yeah, I'm back with you.
Yeah. And the prom I had considered, and I wish I had. Oh God, I miss having passions to say I love passion so much. Anyway, so I have the 3 written down here that I'm trying to decide between. I can't.
Go your heart.
Yeah. Okay. So my third runner-up was Graduation Day Part 2.
Okay.
Brilliant. We just talked about that. Second runner-up is The Wish. It's so good. It's so dark. I loved our discussion of it during that episode. I thought it was great, talking about what Buffy would have been if she hadn't come to Sunnydale.
Xander.
Xander.
Is unusual.
Yeah, and Vamp Willow being a traditionally brilliant character. And it has that darkness. My favorite episode, I think, of the season is I'm gonna buck the trends here. I'm gonna go for a comedic one, Doppelgangland.
Oh right, yeah.
I mean, it is the most brilliant Willow episode of the whole show. I love Willow. Vamp Willow is incredible. Interacting with real Willow, even better. It has some great thematic stuff there. It has some great building up of Willow's character. It is just genuinely funny and genuinely good.
And I think that episode actually predicts a lot of the later seasons in terms of where things are arguably less tense than they are in the first 3 seasons. Yeah. You survive a couple of apocalypse, and it just gets a bit more comedic, and I think it shows that absolutely. So I think it was a great choice.
Maybe The Wish. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, okay. Worst episode, Joel.
This was a little difficult.
Oh, I didn't have any difficulty with this one.
Okay, I wonder if we picked the same one. Dead Man's Party?
No.
Okay, I said Dead Man's Party because although...
You know what? Anne should probably be in that list for me. Anne is so good.
Worst episode, Dead Man's Party for me. Because, there's parts of it that I find funny, but it's a bit too Monster of the Week. A bit too, here's Joyce's weird friend, and now she's like kind of a racially insensitive zombie.
That was so good.
I was trying with my...
Patty, was that her name?
Patty, exactly, yeah. So I was like trying to seek out like a sore tooth with my tongue. I was like, which episode here reminds me of those of Go Fish? I was like, I think Dead Man's Party.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
What did you pick?
Amends.
Why?
Men's is trash. It is Jesus loving trash. It's just Angel being like, I hope I don't die. I hope I do die. And then being like, I was saved by the snow. Like, it's so embarrassing.
Yeah, I can see it now.
It is so embarrassing. And at the end of the episode, there's the like, you know, do you want to be on Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I can't remember, very briefly, did we mention in the prom?
I think we didn't. I don't think we did, but we didn't even fully concretely figure out if it was her.
No, but I'm going to say with, I think, professional confidence that there was at one point, I think Giles is talking to some woman, some student who looks like a normal person rather than a Hollywood actor, and we're pretty certain that was the girl who must have won the sweepstakes to be on the episode of Buffy that was Nicola.
Okay, who was your favorite character of the season?
Faith.
Ding ding ding.
Same thing. Absolutely Faith.
Yeah.
I think it's a fascinating. Okay, so many reasons. I think it's a fascinating thing to introduce into the mythology of the show.
Yep.
And I think so many other shows that follow Buffy would play that as like a flat palette swap for Buffy, but they really get into the psychology of what she means. I think as a actual character within the group, she brings a fascinating element, which is not, you know, she's more chaotic, but she's not necessarily wrong in the way that she approaches a lot of things.
She's what happens when you don't grow up with this situation. It's Buffy if she never came to Sunnydale. It's also Buffy without friends. She's also like, you know, in some ways they get the comfortable privilege of having each other, and she just doesn't have any safety blanket. And
fundamentally, elevatingly, I do think Elijah Dushku is one of the best actors that is in the 7 seasons of the show.
I totally agree. It's exactly what I was going to say. She brings such a menacing, playful, and dark energy to the show, and I love it. I would watch the Faith TV show.
Yeah, Faith the Vampire Slayer. I'm sure plenty of people have suggested that.
Okay. My least favorite character. I'm not sure if we're going to accept it because it wasn't a major character. I haven't answered if it's a major character. It needs to be Scott Hope.
Okay. Why?
He was rubbish.
Yeah, okay, yeah, true, yeah.
He was just mean to Buffy and crap. I don't like him.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. He was mean, he's terrible, and he also calls her a lesbian or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. But no, I mean, like, are you accepting him as a... Like,
well, see, I had this issue coming the other way, because when I was looking at bit characters, recurring characters don't really fall into either. So, like, I'm happy to accept him.
Okay, cool. My other answer was going to be Wesley, because it's an obvious one.
Yeah, I said Wesley, actually.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Because I think, I like Wesley. I can't look at Wesley without seeing his entire arc because I know Angel so well. I think Alexis Demidov is great, and I think what he does with the character is very good. I just don't find his contributions to seeing that interesting.
Yeah, true.
Because he's not at any point actually authoritarian enough to actually... Authoritative? Yeah, he's not actually bossy enough in the scene to influence what they do. So it's not like he gets eroded over the course of his time. Mm-hmm. He's never strong enough to do anything. Yeah. But like I think it's difficult because we're saying least likable main characters, and everyone kind of did a great job this season. So
so Xander obviously this is the first season where neither of us picked Xander because he's just grand in the season.
Yeah.
Worst bit character. Sorry, best favorite bit character.
Ethan Rain.
Oh, great. Okay, cool. I think that's what we said last season too. Maybe
because I think I had Mr. Trick initially because I do think he's quite interesting. It's hard to keep the vampire fresh on this show, and he also, even though it's 1998, he does talk a bit about technology and modernism and all that kind of stuff. And while there's problematic elements to his portrayal, he is introducing a black character into the show that sorely needs it. Sure. But ultimately, I think Ethan Rain is in very few episodes in the show, and he's very compelling.
Yeah, he is.
Whenever he's there. So not to like replace the black actor with the very English white man, but
you just did.
But separate to that, I just find personally Ethan Rain is a very compelling character, specifically because of how he problematizes Giles's character and introduces a depth that you don't usually get to adult characters in these kind of shows.
True. My favorite big character, I couldn't decide between Anya, which I'm not sure if she counts.
I actually forgot Anya was in this season. So
yeah, but even then, like Anya, I only kind of count her because she's only great in that last episode she's in. But probably what I'll go for is Gwendolyn Post. I just love her. Tarfreem.
Yeah, such a fundamental part of your personality. That episode.
Okay,
least favorite.
My least favorite big character was Mr. Trick.
Fair. See,
I thought he was so horribly underwritten, and they actually did a great job. But like, I think someone like Joss Whedon needs to write an apology letter to the black community.
Yeah, to a lot of communities. He's a polarizing character. I can definitely. I wouldn't defend him necessarily, but I think, as you said, the actor does the best he can with what's there. Yeah.
Who was yours?
I should say the deputy mayor, Alan Finch.
He was crap.
Because for someone who is so narratively significant to Fake's arc, he's
no
never
characterization.
interesting.
Yeah, no.
And he's like at all. And I think you can absolutely on Buffy can fit characterization into a couple of scenes, and he had plenty of opportunity to do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think he shouldn't have been so boring if he's going to be the man that Faith killed.
You're right. What was your favorite outfit?
I decided Giles' outfit in Bang Candy when he's being Ripper.
Oh, that's a great decision. Oh god, no, I already had a 2-way tie, but now I have a 3-way tie. Go on.
He just looks great. That's all I can say about it. I wish I looked as cool as Giles does there.
Yeah. My favorite were Faith standard outfit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just the dark the dark lipstick, the white tank top, and the leather jacket around her waist and the leather pants. She looks perfection. She's one of the most beautiful women who's ever lived.
Agreed.
Another one would be Cordelia in the prom.
Yeah,
that dress looks incredible. And then the third would be Joyce grunge version in Bang Candy.
Very good.
Just like with when she gets Giles to punch through the window to get her outfit for her. Oh god, I want that. I want that scene playing. You know, in the future when you have gravestones that have like gifs on the front of them running over and over again, I want that scene.
I would actually imagine that your gravestone would be just filled up with TikToks. I so rarely see actual pure and unadulterated joy from you as when you're watching a funny TikTok of like a person falling over or something.
Okay. What was your least favorite outfit?
I went with Willow's jumper in Doppelgangland.
Sure.
Because it is meant to be terrible, and I think it does look like terrible and really just like silly. So.
You're right. I can't remember which episode it was in. It was a recent one. I think it might have been Earshot. But Xander wears a brown ruffle shirt under that has ruffles on the inside. Mm-hmm. I just felt uncomfortable even looking at it, so that's what I voted for.
His inner tube shirt.
Best monster of the season.
So best monster, like an obvious one I discussed would be Ola Kang itself, the demon. Very interesting. Not an interesting one to talk about because we talked about it for an entire season. But I do love it. Otherwise, I would say Zachary Krulik from Helpless, the serial killer who became a vampire.
He was great.
Because again, I think
there's a weird bit of depth to that character.
And I also think it's probably the last time that a vampire by itself is specifically scary. That jumps to mind.
Yeah, sure.
And given that that's the core animus of the show is vampires and how threatening they can be, like definitely after seeing them getting beat up by a bunch of high school kids, like they lose that threat until maybe the Turok Kong in season 7.
True, though. I mean, Uber Vamps, do they count? And also season 4. It's funny that you say that because season 4 obviously opens with a vampire threat.
No, but see, the thing is, it opens with a vampire who is a threat to her, but not scary to the viewer, I think.
True.
Anyway, I think it's interesting, and there's so much to say about that character because serial killers were such an epitome of toxic masculinity and the various issues in terms of the threat that men can pose to women. So just what contributes to that episode, I just find him very interesting.
Fair. My favorite monster, I cheated, Faith.
Okay.
Such a bastard.
So Faith.
Yeah, Faith is my favorite monster. She's great. Love her. I just wanted to cheat and find a way to talk about Faith again.
Fair. Okay, least favorite monster.
Mine was Pete from Beauty and the Beasts.
Oh yeah, the weird rage guy.
Yeah, the rage monster.
Who just looked at like that meme of that kid in class who's like trying not to sneeze or something.
He looks like a raging hard-on.
He did that. My monster is actually similar. It's the kind of the gang of bad guys from the Zeppo, the zombies. Ugh. Also just like generic kind of hillbilly-ish, funny but not necessarily interesting characters, and also just like a little tacky for the show at this point in a way. Yeah. They didn't excite me.
No. Okay, well there you go. That was season 3 of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot.
We're nearly at the halfway point of the show.
I know. I'm excited to go into what feels like newer territory for me because I know the first 3 seasons just so well. Yeah. Yeah,
no, I think the only season I don't know that well is really season 7. Every other season I know like pretty much like the back of my hand.
Sure. Okay.
Season 7 I know the first half of the back of my hand, but anyway. Okay.
You ready to wrap up, Brian, on this season?
Yeah, well, thanks, Joel, for another season of Buffy Boys. That was fun.
Thank
Are you
you, Brian.
crying?
I'm not crying.
Are you crying a little bit?
No, the amount of times you accuse me of crying when I'm not actually crying, compared to the amount of times I am crying, there's plenty of material there. I was crying at BoJack Horseman recently. I was crying at crying at loads of things.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, I suppose we'll see you next week for season 4, episode 1, which is what's the episode called actually?
The fresh one.
The fresh one. Great.
I'm
excited.
So am I. So thanks very much for sticking with us. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we've loved having you here. So we'll see you.
You're crying now?
I'm not crying.
Okay.
Tell your friends, tell your vampire slayers, and we'll see you next time on Buffy Boys.
Yeah, it's just Buffy Boys.
See ya.
See ya. Bye.